Presentation to the board. Oh, we don't have any student representatives, I don't think.
They're not here now.
Okay. Presentation to the board, Brenda Pulowski, Hudson CPA and Associates.
Good evening, everyone.
Brenda?
It's nice to see you all. You're very tiny, but I can sort of see you. So I'm not going to start out with providing my date of birth or which movie is my favorite, because that would also date me. So I'm just going to get right into this presentation. I'm assuming you can see the slide there that I have. I have a PowerPoint that will kind of summarize the audit for this past year. Everyone should have a copy or would be provided a copy of our full audit report. And I know that everyone likes to use that and use that, go through the whole thing, help put yourselves to sleep at times. There actually is some good information in there if you want to leaf through it and find some of the more interesting pages. Okay, there we go. So the overview of the audit, we did have an unmodified or clean opinion on the financial statements and also on our report on internal control and financial reporting over compliance. So what all that means is we didn't have any issues. There were no findings, no material audit adjustments, no control issues. So the audit went very well. The general fund had an increase in fund balance, as we have seen with most of the districts that we audit. The COVID funding allowed for districts to accumulate some fund balance for future expenditures. And as some schools we've told, including Glendale, even though there are some projects that you have that aren't COVID approved, with the extra money that you have, there are some projects that you can fund just with your regular fund balance, since you're able to accumulate some extra money due to the COVID funding. The total federal expenditures for this past year were $1.1 million. A single audit is required when those expenditures are $750,000 or more. So you can see that we did have to do a single audit this year. We have not had to do one in the past couple years, so there was no single audit in fiscal year 20, but we had one in 21, and we'll have one going forward as a result of that COVID funding that continues into 2024. We had a clean opinion as well on the federal programs that we did test. Because the district was not a single audit, was not subject to a single audit the past couple of years, we could not make you a low risk auditee. So as a result of not being low risk, because you haven't had to have a single audit in the past couple of years, we have to test at least 40% of those federal expenditures. To get that coverage, we did test 53%, so almost $600,000 worth. We tested the special education cluster, which is your IDEA money, the education stabilization fund, which is your ESSER 1, 2, and potentially 3 money, and the coronavirus relief fund, which was the money that came through the PA Commission on Crime and Delinquency. So although we tested here listing 3 programs, the education stabilization fund was actually 3 in itself. It was ESSER 1, ESSER 2, and you also received the GEAR money, that governor's emergency relief money. So we actually tested overall 6 programs this year to get our coverage, which we had to test at least 40%. Okay. Looking at a fund focus, the governmental funds here, we had an increase in fund balance of $408,000, almost $409,000 across the different governmental funds, which include general fund, capital projects, and debt service, with $257,000 being in the general fund, The debt service fund, that is used to accumulate the money that will be due to pay off the QSCB bonds when they come due. So that money isn't spendable, it just has to sit in there and accumulate until those bonds come due. So the total fund balance as of June 30, 21 is 5.4 million, with 3.6 of that in the general fund. Within that, we've got the restricted scholarship money in there now. Last year, when I did my presentation, I had commented at the end that there was a new accounting standard coming out that was going to require that scholarship, the Niedermeyer scholarship, to be part of the general fund now. Because the district handles that money and they control that money, it's required to be reported in the general fund, although not for use. You know, the use of it is still restricted for scholarships. So when we show the fund balance, it shows as a restricted amount. It's not spendable by the district. And then we have committed funds of $2 million for technology, capital improvements, future retirement costs, that type of thing. Okay, and then as I mentioned above, there's $1.1 million in the debt service fund, which is that money that's so far set aside for that QSCB issue to be redeemed. And every year I do this comparison of general fund revenues compared to the budget, prior years, and I know it's no surprise to anyone to look at this graph now and see that the federal funds are higher. State funds are also higher, so federal obviously COVID money, state is also COVID money. There was some state money from the PCCD, that Pennsylvania Commission on Crime and Delinquency. So there was federal money through them as well as state money. So there was, that's the result of COVID, and it shows the increase there in both of those funding sources. Same comparison for the expenditures, and again, no surprise, you're going to see an increase in expenditures as those COVID monies are being spent in various areas. So no real surprise there. Are there any questions on what I've gone over so far? Okay. The food service fund didn't fare so well. There was a decrease in sales of about 90,000, and in the increase in the subsidy as a result of the pandemic wasn't enough to cover that loss in sales. So there's about a $79,000 decrease between sales and increased subsidy. That resulted obviously in a larger transfer needed from the general fund. So you can see the transfer in there is 134 this year, it was 86 last year. And then we're required to communicate to the board as part of the audit. So we do discuss the planning, scope, and timing of the audit via the engagement letter that we provide. To discuss any difficulties that we encountered, and despite COVID, we did not encounter any difficulties this year or last. Any corrected or uncorrected misstatements. In almost every audit, we find small, changes that we decide not to make. They're not material enough to warrant making a change to the financials or to the books. So we just kind of pass on those. And then we make some adjustments that we work with management to determine whether those are needed to be made or not. There were no disagreements with management. We do obtain a representation letter from management, both signed by the superintendent and the business manager, with various things that they reveal to us. That there's no fraud. They're in compliance with everything they're required to be in compliance with. They've informed, they've informed us of everything, made known anything that we need to know as part of our audit. There was no consultation with outside accountants. There were no other audit findings or issues. We did not issue a separate management letter this year, as I don't think we've done that in the past couple of years. Things seem to be running pretty smoothly there, so kudos to the business office for doing a great job. So as I mentioned, the fiduciary activities, this was a statement that was implemented this fiscal year where the scholarship fund moved into the general fund. The student activity funds is not part of the general fund. We just have to present both a balance sheet and an income statement for that fund starting in 2021, but it doesn't impact the general fund. Coming in 2022, we'll have a new standard on leases. This will not impact the fund balance. This is strictly for the financial statements that are prepared that make you look more like a business. So again, this lease standard will come into play in 2022, but will not impact fund balance. Okay. And just again, thank you to the business office for all the support that they provide us, providing us everything that we need in a timely manner. They're great to work with, and I want to thank them. So if there are any questions, I'll take those.
Anybody at the table? Brenda, there doesn't seem to be any questions from the board at this time.
Okay, well, if there are any, feel free to fill those through the business office, and they can get those to me, and I can respond.
Thank you, Brenda.
All right, thank you. Have a good evening.
Mr. Dobo, you're up.
Good evening, everybody. For those of you, if you don't know me, most of you do, I'm Jeremiah Dobo, the band director here. So you should already have.
Quick note, Dr. Dobo is a new board member at West Branch, so he's taken on new duties and responsibilities. He sits in the chair similar to you, and congratulations to you, and thank you for your service to here as well as West Branch.
Thank you. Yeah, so it's interesting sitting on your side as well. But so you should already have a packet. I have since gotten new paperwork that I'm passing around to all of you. So this is basically null and void. You know, this had a good estimate, I thought, of what might be close, but we have official numbers now. I have invoices from Stanbury, and Banding Together is the subsidiary company that deals with some of the other pieces. So what you're looking at here is the cost of what new band uniforms would be. In April of last year, I met with Mr. DeSabato. I met with Mr. DeSabato to start this process. It has been common practice that every 10 years we replace the band uniforms. And the 2021-2022 school year is our 10th year with these current uniforms. So I wanted to get this process started to hopefully get the ball rolling in time so we could have new uniforms for the upcoming football season. That's the goal here. So if you look, there's a breakdown of all the pieces that you'll see here. It does come out to a little bit more when you add it all up. That was the original thing that I gave you, was an estimate. So the base of what you have there comes out to $60,000, or $60,276.50. Sorry. The only thing that's missing from this current estimate is the band front uniform. And we have done the way that these band uniform companies work. As you reach out to them, and they have artists, and you work with the artists. Stanbury, this company, sent me a questionnaire of like 150 questions. They wanted previous uniform designs, they wanted videos of the band performing. I had to answer a bunch of questions, and they come back with designs. And it was a collaborative process for a couple months until we agreed on things. They nailed the band uniform kind of right off the bat. And I actually have that here, I'm going to show it to you in a little bit. But when they sent us the sample of the band front uniform, we weren't really that happy with it. Some things look great on paper, don't look so great whenever you get them in real life. So we're working on a redesign. Yeah. Yeah. So we're redesigning that right now. We just got fabric samples last week to kind of work on that redesign. So that's missing from this estimate. They usually run $200 to $300. So if you estimate $250-ish for 40 uniforms, it comes out to an additional $10,000 on top of the $60,000. So we're looking at $70,000 for new band uniforms. It's a big expense. It's a big expense because it's a big group, and the uniforms are a lot more expensive. And the reason that we do 10 years as opposed to the shorter time frame that like the football team or the baseball team or softball team does is because it is a bigger expense. Band uniforms are made to last about 10 years, and our uniforms are in a state where it's hard to put kids in uniforms now. Not only do we not have enough on the smaller end, they're just falling apart. They're getting holes. They're not designed well when it comes to the cuffs on the pants. So what ends up happening is kids march on the pants and you get great big holes in the pants, and then the pants are no good. So we're coming up on this being an issue, and with that 10-year time frame, this is the time when it would be correct to do this. And I spoke with Mr. DeSabato, and I spoke with David Glasgow, the representative from Stanbury, about this. We can, because it's not budgeted in for this school year, we can place the order now or within the coming months, and then actually not pay until the next fiscal year. So it would be something that could be budgeted in for the next school year, even though we're placing the order now. Stanbury will either accept a purchase order dated for July 1st, or we can send them a letter of intent that we're going to be paying for, whatever, and the final contract ends up being. And then we would send the purchase order on July 1st to make that payment in the next fiscal school year. So let me grab the new uniform to show you. It should look somewhat familiar, but I've made some design updates. We've gone with a longer coat, a sash now, with the additional GHS. We've added the logo, which it did not have previously. Something that the kids really liked whenever I showed them this. The zip is in the middle in the front, as opposed to being on the side. They really liked. Pants with a tuck stripe, a little bit, stands out a little bit more. But the thing that really, I think, caught the kids' attention was the updated hat. We would be the only school that I know of in PMEA District 4 or 6, which is the surrounding counties, to wear a helmet with what's called a phantom plume. Most bands use the shake-out, the flat top hat with a straight up and down plume. It's a little bit different, and it goes really well with the new uniform update. It's not always like this. It's raining outside.
I say it's removable.
Yeah, the plume's removable. What?
Looks like a mohawk.
It does. It does. But it's different, and it'll make the kids stand out. And like I said, when I showed this to the kids, the immediate reaction was like, "Oh, that's different." And then a kid put it on with the uniform, and they're like, "Oh, that's pretty cool. We like that." So it's a little bit of an updated design. Actually, I looked at some old pictures of uniforms, and the long coat design actually kind of throws back a little bit to, I think it's the 80s. I can't remember off the top of my head. It's a design that we've had similar to before. So we're kind of throwing back to that a little bit as well. So I don't know if anybody wants to look at the uniform or to have it close. I can pass it around if anybody wants to see it. So I guess now, does anybody have questions for me? I'm sure, yes.
I have one. I see you're wearing 100 uniforms.
Yes.
How many do you have in the band now?
Currently we have, this past year we had 64 members. And that corresponds to, was 55 marching members. And the reason that we order more uniforms than we need is because of sizing. That's the first big thing. We need to have an array of sizes. And there's always the possibility that the band could grow. Is the band going to ever get back to the numbers where, back when when Mr. Stacy was the director in like the early 2000s? Probably not, because our school population is decreasing. But the 100 uniforms is less than we ordered last time. It's a smaller order because the school is smaller and the marching band is smaller. You know, I'm still, since I've been here, I've never had below 60 kids in the marching band. We've been pretty consistent, and that 100 uniforms is about what Stanbury recommends for a marching band of our size. So that should set us up well for the next 10 years.
Did they give you a timeline on the latest you could order to have uniforms for next year?
It's coming up real quick. And this process, part of the reason why I wanted to try to wait was because we're trying to get the band front uniform finalized. That won't take as long to turn around. So once we get that finalized, it shouldn't take more than a couple months to get those done. But the band front, or the band uniforms, take quite a while. We really need to order them by like March. And as long as COVID doesn't mess everything up, we should have them in time for August. The hope is to have them in time to take pictures and then have them for the first football game.
Talk just a little bit, there was information I thought was interesting, there's not many companies that make band uniforms.
No.
So if you could just talk a little bit about that.
Sure. So Stanbury is the company that I ended up going with. There are really two players in the game right now. You have Stanbury and you have DeMolin, and our current uniforms are DeMolin, and they're fine uniforms. And it's not really the uniform quality that I was looking for a change. It was in the service quality that I was looking for a change with. I've had problems getting pants for drum majors from DeMolin in the past. When Kyle was the drum major, I had to fight with DeMolin to get pants. The first pair of pants that we ordered were not the right size. They came in a size too small. So we've had issues with them in the past. And when I started this process, I should say, I sent out an email to all of my band director colleagues in central Pennsylvania and said, who do you use? Who's your preferred company? And it came back at about 80% said Stanbury. And a lot of them said, well, we switched to Stanbury because we couldn't get things that we needed. You know, we tried to order buttons to replace and we couldn't get buttons. And so those were some of the things that kind of led me towards this company instead. And the nice thing, both Stanbury and DeMolin are co-stars in Pennsylvania. So it's competitive pricing regardless. So we don't have to do anything with bidding things out because it's gonna come back at the same price from DeMolin as well. So we can go with the company that has really kind of put in the work. Their representative, David Glasgow, that is based out of Ohio, actually drove out here last May to show me samples and to talk ideas with me and stuff like that. And he's been super great to work with. And he really cares about trying to get us a uniform that'll be good for our marching band. So that's kind of my pitch. We don't, like I said, we don't have entirely final numbers yet because we don't have the band uniform or the band front uniform finalized. But it should come out around $70,000.
You think you'll have that for the next board meeting? Hopefully.
Probably not, because we just got the fabric samples.
Okay.
So what will probably happen is I want Julie to look at the fabric samples. I have a pretty good idea of what fabric we're gonna go with, but I want her to look at them as well. And then they have to actually produce the design, which can take a month, maybe. It all depends. But what we can do, because it's a quicker turnaround time for the band front uniforms, we could place the order for the band uniforms and all of the amenities, the garment bags, hat boxes, helmets, raincoats. We could place that now. And then once the band front uniform is finalized, place that order as well. And then it should hopefully be here in time, even though it's placed later.
Is the band front uniform pants, is it?
Yes. Yeah, we kept the whole idea of the two-piece. We're experimenting with the possibility of having a top that the majorettes can use as just the top, and then the silks, the flags, can add pants to differentiate between the uniforms a little bit. That was part of the problem with the first design. It looked a little too like flowy, flowery for us. So that's something that we're looking at. But yeah, we are keeping the two-piece band front uniform.
I'm just thinking warmth, you know.
Oh,
to
sure.
Be, like, whether you're gonna incorporate any kind of warm up.
Well, the warm-ups that we have now, when I asked Julie about this, and she thinks that the warm-ups that we have right now should be all right. We don't need to replace those. And then on top of that, we are getting new raincoats as well. You can't really wear the raincoats on the field for band front. But we'll have raincoats that actually fit the kids. Right now we have an excess of like double XL and triple XL raincoats, which is great for me. I can always find a raincoat, but then I'm giving kids like who are 5 feet tall, like, well, the smallest I've got for you is a large, and it's down to their feet, and you can't see their hands because the arms are so long. So
Or even the small fish do. The
Uh,
size smaller do you. Trust me.
I don't know about that.
No, that's the problem with raincoats. They're so big.
Oh, that they're so big?
They're so
Yeah.
big that the smalls, and that's why all the smalls are gone.
Yeah.
Another thing you and I spoke about is what we do with old uniforms when they get to the end of the cycle as well. If you could just give a little.
Yeah. So we really have 4 options, and one option is throwing them away, which I don't like the idea of at all, but there are bands that do it. Well, they're no good anymore, just pitch them, get rid of them. We can put them in storage, which I don't think we have the space to do. We don't have the space to do. From experience, when West Branch got new band uniforms, they put their old ones in storage. They just took up space for a while. Then there are the options of selling them to a smaller school. The last uniforms that we had, I believe we sold to
Forbes Road.
Forbes Road.
Yeah.
The issue with that is Forbes Road doesn't have a marching band anymore because they're so small. So if we can find a small school that has maybe like a 20-person marching band, schools like that don't usually have the funding to buy new uniforms, so they'll buy old uniforms from other schools and kind of piece them together and make them work for a couple of years. And then the 4th option is making it like a fundraiser. There's a lady based out of Altoona who, when Altoona got new band uniforms a couple of years ago, 3 or 4 years ago, she made the coats into pillows, into like tote bags, and sold them to the community and to alumni. And you get a really good response because all of the kids that have been in marching band for the past 10 years, I say kids, most of them are adults now, that have been in marching band for the past 10 years, or their parents were in those uniforms, and I'll buy a pillow. I have a pillow from my old West Branch marching band uniform from when I was in high school, and that's a way for us to recoup a little bit of money as well. So that's also an option. It's not up to me because the school district owns the band uniforms, but that's something else to think about as well.
You would have a 5th option if my dad was still alive. Back in the 80s, you may remember this because you lived these times. Back in the 80s, they sold the old uniforms, one of those big high furry hats. Somehow my dad ended up buying. He came to the auction up here, and there were like bulbs and pieces of whatever tools, and they were putting the band uniform. And he felt bad because nobody was bidding, so he bid like some ridiculous thing, $20. I'll never forget the look on my mom's face when we come driving in the driveway for Toyota pickup stacked to the roof with band uniforms.
A 5th option.
Didn't we make pillows out of them one other time before?
I don't.
We did.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The ones that we didn't, send to Forbes Road, we made some pillows and things out of them.
Yeah.
One of my babies, somebody did. Wasn't me.
Yeah, I have a couple of those pillows and, sparkly ones that are the yeah. Yeah.
questions for Mr. Dobo around the table? So, Gallagher side?
I wanna look at that jacket, make sure there's no button, I wanna see how the.
I thought Mr. Stacy was trying it on for you.
It'll probably fit you.
I just wanna see
It's just
how
about your size.
sturdy-
Don't help Mr. Dobo.
I just wanna see how sturdy, I don't, you know, just wanna see, with the old ones, we had a lot of issues with these, kind of took the pocket off. And I just wanted to see how they felt. Are you gonna wear the, is this for the staff,
Yes, well, they put a button on both sides
for the cake?
for the sash, just in case.
Okay.
But the ones that we get won't have this button on the side. The sash. That one, we've talked about. Yeah. So then the previous one. Something else I guess I forgot to say. These are made of what's called DAC wool. The current uniforms are heavy, and which is great for when it gets really cold outside. But these are stronger, the material's stronger, and it's lighter, which is really nice. It's good for the kids. I don't have kids passing out all the time because the band uniforms are too hot. So that's another thing with Stanbury that I really like. So. Yep.
So 3 to 5 months. If the board was to approve this, there's a pretty good chance that next month would have to be the month that we would approve it. March, April, May, June, July. Band camp is in August. So in order to, if the band, if the board would want to do so, we would have to move quickly then at the next meeting.
And any additional information that you might want, you know, you can email me or call me, and I can get a hold of David to try to get as well. You know, he's really great about getting us.
This is the most accurate quote then?
Yes, those are. I gave him all the numbers, and he went in and did basically like a final estimate. Material prices keep changing because of COVID, but once we sign a contract, it's locked in. It doesn't change anymore. Whatever we sign the contract at, that's what the price will be.
It's about 15, I think it's about 15,000 more than what we did last time.
I think it was about
55, 56.
57, I was thinking,
Yeah,
is what it was.
Yeah.
Last time.
10 years, that's fine.
I don't think that's
They
bad.
have an increase now.
Not at the cost of anything now.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thanks, Jordan.
This time, Mrs. Reed would like to address the board.
Good evening, everyone. My name's Alice Reed, and I am a parent with a child with special needs. And I'm asking the board to approve the installation of a camera in the life skills room. I was informed that this violates the teachers' union because of a court case filed over 10 years ago. Okay, I asked you. The court case was filed because we were spying on the kids and the teachers. There's cameras in the hallway, there's cameras on their school buses. Okay, you can basically track them on their Chromebooks by what they log into. What's the difference? I don't understand what the difference would be if there's one in the classroom. And if the teacher's uncomfortable with it, I gotta ask why. I would think that they would welcome one in their classroom, just for the fact that, you know, it would save their reputation. But our kids in the classroom, in the life skills classroom, they can't always express themselves to the point where if something's bothering them, you know, and we do have one nonverbal child in the classroom anyway. So if our kids are having an off day, I think if we could review some footage, maybe we could spot a trigger that might be, you know, that they might be having an off day, you know, what might be setting them off or whatever. And I think the footage would be better than just having someone in there to observe the class, because that person could get distracted and miss something altogether. So, I also think that if there's a camera in the classroom and you can view positive interactions between the students and the teachers, that it would foster more parental trust between, you know, the parents and the teachers. Because I can tell you right now, in that classroom, there's no trust. It's not there. And I don't have to tell you that parents and teachers that have a good relationship tend to have more academically successful children. It's not illegal to have cameras in the classroom, and I'm not asking for you to put one in every classroom at this time. I think that it would benefit the teachers, because then they could collaborate with colleagues to improve insight and provide new and fresh ideas, and encourage them to evaluate methods to strive to provide the best learning environment possible. You may have concerns about the interfering with the IDEA, Individuals with Disabilities Education Act, requirement to educate in the least restrictive environment possible. But the parents, I can guarantee, may see a monitored classroom safer and more desirable for our children. And all I can say is, if the kids don't even realize that the camera's there, it's not gonna affect the way they act in the classroom at all. You know, so, and then granted, if a parent wanted to view the footage under the FERPA, Family Education Rights and Privacy Act, which protects student confidential records, security footage would fall under the same umbrella. And as long as the school has parents sign a release form, that parent has every right to view the footage. So, and I mean, we just had an audit thing where you have so much money, you know, here, there, and whatever. Surely some of it could be spent on some of these classrooms having a camera in, especially the life skills classroom. I was told by administration that my children were safer here than at home. Friday, we had a credible threat of a school shooting. I didn't even find out till after my child left to go to school that there was a threat. No one, this has nothing to do with the cameras in the classroom, but our kids aren't safe here. And I just think that after one administrator put hands on my son years ago, and I have pictures of bruises of an educator that put on a kid that was not mine, but pretty much I feel that he's a kid of mine. Our kids aren't safe here, and I think that a camera in every classroom, but mainly in the life skills classroom, needs to be in there for the simple fact that our kids, some of them tend to make up stories, some of them don't, but there are times where they come home and there are things said that you don't know if it's the truth, you just don't know. I mean, it could be off the wall, but if they come home and say, hey, well, you know, Miss so-and-so or Mr. so-and-so kicked me, punched me, you know, we don't know. That's our kid. Why would they lie to us? You know, that camera would save everybody's reputation in that room. So, I just think after so many teachers being accused of improperly, you know, touching this person or whatever, this is a no-brainer. Our kids are a top priority, and like I said, with some of those kids in that classroom who cannot speak, cannot express what's going on, I just think that for their safety and for the safety of everybody in that room, that it should be. And it's not, I'm not asking for much, it's just, what, one camera, 2 cameras in that room for those kids. So, that's basically what all I have on it, but there's 80% of public schools that have the cameras in there. They use it to kind of like mitigate misconduct and violence and bullying, you know, it's trying to keep it from happening. The school has a lot of that too, and we need to put our kids first. Our kids need to know that they are safe, even if, I don't consider it Big Brother watching, I consider it God trying to protect our children, and this is the only way he can do it. So, thanks, that's all I have really, but. Thank you. Does anyone have any questions about, I mean, I don't know if he's had anything to say to me about it, but.
Can we put a camera in the classroom?
There are legal challenges to doing that, but, you know, if we could get more information, and I don't know that the public session is the appropriate forum, but maybe get some information as to specific concerns in addition to what you shared generally, that may help us in terms of assessing the situation. Is that fair to say, Mr. DeSato?
So for what reason would we not be allowed to put a camera in there?
Well, so one of the concerns or challenges is that every student has privacy rights.
I have spoke with several parents, not all, but I've spoke with several, and every one of them want that camera in there. Especially the parents of the nonverbal child.
So, I mean, that to me, well, I'll address the legal concerns. So, to even be able to start the process, from the parent side, we would need releases from each of the parents to be able to do that, because it is an impingement on the other students' rights to all be videotaped for review later. So each parent and student would have to agree. And then there are, in addition to that, we have the concern about getting not creating an issue with the teachers union. I mean, that is a concern as well, and I think there's a board policy that addresses where the cameras can be placed in the building and what they can be used for.
If, I don't remember signing a release form for there being cameras in the hallway, and you're videotaping my child in the hallway.
That's not in the learning setting. And that videotape is not released to it's not viewable to parents that wanna come in and look at it.
So if there's a camera in the classroom that you have to sign a release form to have it in there because it's violating someone's privacy?
We can't, the challenge is each student's learning process, and I'm not sure I should be addressing this in public setting, but each student's learning process is protected by FERPA. I mean, you mentioned FERPA, so every student has privacy rights related to their educational programming and processes. And that's the reason that the video footage isn't released generally to parents. The districts get questions all the time to view video footage of fights, for example, and there are processes that have to be followed because there are other students that are in the screenshots that their information would be released.
But if there was a release form sent out to every parent in that classroom and they signed it and they didn't have a problem with it, would there still be an issue?
Yes, that's only one of the issues.
So what's the other issue?
Generally speaking, you mentioned other districts having cameras in the classroom. I'm not aware of any of those districts. There are other issues related to the teachers' unions and where cameras are permitted.
But we can look into it, right?
Yes, that's what I said, and we can gather more information because it sounds to me like there are other issues maybe need to be discussed as well, if based on what you presented.
Well, yeah, because I mean, if there's, especially with the nonverbal child in there, he can't tell you what's going on. And, you know, you just never know. So, I just don't see where it would be such a issue if the parents of the children in that classroom, I don't see why there would be such an issue with it. Quite frankly, I think we would all feel better with our children in that classroom with a camera in there, because To me, it sounds like you're trying to protect the teacher more than the children.
No, I don't think that's what we're really saying. I think we're saying that.
But if we sign a release form and we're okay with it,
But everybody, right, but I think what we need to do is look into it, as you're saying. We'll definitely look into it, but I think we need a little more information, which I don't think is, with it involving your children or your student, that's more private, that needs to be discussed, okay? So I think that what we're saying is we'll definitely look into it, and I don't disagree with you that we shouldn't review and figure out whether we can or can't, and we need to look at all of it.
it's not illegal.
That could change if you had a new student come in and their parent wasn't comfortable with it, then you could lose it. Also, I know in the past, if you've had, students come in and help out in that room from the high school for different activities, and that's happened when my son was there, you'd have to also have their parents' permission for their, face to be on there also.
Well, if they're going to volunteer in that classroom, wouldn't you have like something for them to sign?
As a volunteer, but that doesn't mean that their parents are okay with them being videotaped also. That's a whole other issue.
But couldn't you like send the release home with them?
Yeah, you could, that's what I'm saying, there could be other issues that hold it up. For example, if you got a new student in that life skills classroom and one parent didn't want the kids videotaped, then that would throw a wrench into everybody, you know what I'm saying?
Right.
If 6 parents agreed and one didn't, that would be a factor.
I just feel that it's more of a security thing for the children.
Yeah, I'm not disagreeing with you on that, there's Kay and the attorney spoke, that there's a lot we have to look into to be able to consider it.
We are gonna look into it, you said we'll have an answer for next month.
I'll consult with Attorney Willett, we'll get an update from Attorney Willett after the next meeting.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, public comment on agenda items.
I just wanted to know if there is a possibility of anybody that would be qualified to sit in the classroom because of the parent concerns and observe, not just any random person, of course, but somebody that's qualified to see if there are any reasons for concern for the time being until a decision is made.
Pertaining to it,
Yes.
okay.
It sounds to me, from not knowing the whole story, but it sounds to me like there have been some issues that have been happening, and although, because this is a place maybe where it shouldn't, a conversation like this shouldn't take place, it sounds like Alice has reached out to the school, and she was told that they were safer here than at home, if I understood it correctly. So, if she's not the only one with concerns, though, is there anybody that could sit in the classroom that's qualified to make sure there are other issues going on that need to be addressed by parents? Or would that be something that's impossible to do?
I don't know if we had the extra staff to sit in there. I don't know how many teachers, I don't know anything about that class.
How many adults are in that room?
5 to 7.
We have 5 to 7 adults in that room.
That some are not our some are our services, but not our school district. They're there for outside agencies, services.
Okay.
But we have 2 full-time paras and a full-time teacher.
How many students?
6 right now.
We were basically on a 1-to-1 already. So who else would you wanna be in there?
Just somebody to observe,
Oh,
to make sure that there is no mistreatment, I guess, going on, any questionable activity,
so like pop in from time to time? Or
Not
sit
pop
there
in,
all
but-
day?
but sit for maybe a few days if that's what it takes, just to see if they find anything that shouldn't be going on or any behavior that, because you can obviously tell when a child is acting differently when there are different people present. So I think that somebody that has the knowledge, and that's why I said somebody that definitely has the background that can pick up on those things, we'll be able to see if the children are acting differently because there's another set of eyes in the room. If it's somebody that's qualified.
Couldn't we contract that out through the CIU town somehow?
Excuse me.
They have a whole bunch of services through there.
I'm not sure if they have that service, but I mean, I can certainly talk to Dr. Endler. I mean, they do have a special ed department. I'm not sure if they provide that service, but I can talk to Dr. Endler.
You don't feel comfortable with administrators doing this? I think that's their job.
I'm just saying that, when I try to come to school to observe my child, I'm not even allowed in the building. That sends a red flag up, big time. So, if something were to happen and Hunter was to come home and say, hey, Mom, what do you do as a parent? What would you do as a parent? You know what I mean? So I just wanna make sure that nothing, which I'm not saying something is going on in that classroom. I just wanna make sure that nothing is going on that shouldn't be going on, because there have been instances where things have happened, and I know when I was called, my son was provoked for it to happen. So it's like, come on, all I want is my son to have a good day at school. I don't want anything major happening while he's there. You know what I'm saying? It's just, but when you're not even allowed in the building, you're not allowed to observe your son in the classroom, I'm thinking most of you would be like, whoa, what's going on? And I get it's due to COVID and whatever. Okay, but still, my son's in this school, and there are times where, yes, I would like to go and observe him in the classroom, and I'm not even allowed in the building, so it's just something that would probably make most of us, and I have spoken with the parents, both parents of the child that is nonverbal, and they said, we don't trust anybody here, and they would love to be able to know what is going on in their son's day. So, and it's hard, when you don't live it, you don't understand it. And I know there's people here that live it, and they do understand it, so it's, I don't know what more to say about it, other than we just want our kids to know that they're safe, and we know that they're safe and nothing's going on. But there has been things that have happened that, I'm sorry, but I don't trust a whole lot of people when it comes with my child, and camera really can't lie, so that's just my whole argument, I guess.
Were, these concerns you have, were they brought to the administration, and what was their comment back to you, or they weren't ever brought to their attention?
The one time when an administrator put his hands on my child, I did write a certified letter to that administrator and to the superintendent, and I never heard anything back. Never. So right there was like, okay, what do you do? And I let it go, because maybe that was just the thing to do at the time. When the other incident happened, like I said, it wasn't my child, but I treat him like he's my child.
Your son.
That was taken care of by that child's mother. I can't say any more about it, only that I had personally seen the bruises on that child's arm. And I still have the pictures on my phone that I took. So that's why I don't feel that the children are that safe in this school. And I'm not saying it's every educator here, it's not. There are some really great educators here, really great administrators here. But it only takes one, so.
Mrs. Reed, I understand where you're coming from, but prior to COVID, our school was was one of the more liberal schools with giving access to parents of being in this school. In Rio's early years, when he was attending Altoona School District, and their policy may have changed since then, but at that time, a parent was allowed to visit their child in school 2 times a year for 1 day with 24 hours notice. This school was more than open prior to COVID for, parents to come in. COVID's put a whole new spin on things, and I'm not sticking up for the school, but I'm just telling you that I feel that compared to most schools, and Attorney Willett may have a better knowledge of other schools, that we were very liberal at letting students or parents into the school prior to COVID.
And I agree with you.
Yeah.
But the other day when I picked up my kid, I wasn't even allowed, they had to bring everything out, I wasn't allowed in the building. So, and that's been probably for the past year and a half, even into last year. So, I get it, nobody wants COVID, nobody, I had it, I wouldn't wish it on my worst enemy. But, when your child's in school and they're coming home and, you're hearing things, Hunter doesn't come right out and tell me, hey, this happened, hey, this, he repeats how his day goes. When things are said and you're like, what? And it clears up, you wonder, So, and like you said, with Rio, Rio went to school here too, wouldn't you wanna know how his day went? You know what I mean?
days are good.
Okay, you stop. So,
I think there's definitely things we need to look into, and we will get back to you.
I really appreciate it, thank you for letting me speak.
That's all right.
Anything else from public? Okay, if not, we'll move into committee business. Athletic Committee. Mr. Wilson.
Okay, I'll be looking for consideration to approve Dan Booterbaugh as the 2021-22 Assistant Varsity Softball Coach. And consideration to approve Tyler Zimmerman as an athletic volunteer for varsity baseball. Are we having an executive session?
We do have to have one.
Okay, I'm just gonna stay like 3 minutes on the end of season coach.
Can it be, we don't need to have it in between, right?
No, if there's no
There's
action
nothing that action
item,
has
you
to be
can do
done.
it at the
No,
end.
Nope.
We'll do it at the end then.
Sounds great.
That works for everybody.
Yep. That's all.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Wilson. Questions, comments on the budget? Okay, moving into personnel. A consideration to approve Lester Barnhart to fill our English teacher vacancy at a step 1 prorated 2021-22 base salary of $41,422. Number 2, consideration to accept a retirement request from Dorothy Bonnell as a support staff member retroactive to 1/4/22. Number 3, consideration to accept a retirement request from Linda Lender as a support staff member retroactive to 1/12/22. Number 4, consideration to approve the transfer request of Rhonda Shepler to fill a part-time food service vacancy effective 1/19/22. Number 5, consideration to retroactively approve the following individuals to our substitute teacher list: Kristen Hewitt, 12/20/21, Elena McClellan, 12/20/21, and Lauren Clarkson, January 10th, 22. Number 6, consideration to approve Dawn Cunningham to complete the positions of mentor for Kristen Lloyd and 2021-22 11th grade class advisor held by former employees. Number 7, consideration to approve Kristen Lloyd to complete the position of 2021-22 student council advisor held by a former employee. Number 8, consideration to approve Nancy Gilbert to complete the position of 2021-22 scholastic scrimmage advisor held by a former employee. I believe that is all. Any questions, comments? Okay, building and grounds.
Yes, looking for consideration to approve the following use of the facilities paid Glendale Music Department to use the high school facility on 2/17/22 and 2/18/22 to host the PMEA District 4 Jazz Festival. B, Justin Daniels Dance Studio to use the high school auditorium on 5/7/22 for a dance recital. The practices held when available. C, call for community nursery school to use the high school auditorium on 5/26/22 for a graduation program with fees waived. That would be it for buildings and grounds.
Thank you, Mr. Munson. Questions, comments? Okay, discipline and curriculum.
Okay, we are looking for consideration to approve the following field trip requests. A, Jeremiah Dobo to have 3 students participate in the District 4 Jazz Festival at Glendale on February 17th, 22, and February 18th, 22, with district cost of $225 for admissions. B, Kim Kozak to take 48 students to the Clearfield Fairgrounds on 3/3/22 for a college fair, with district cost of $294, $244 for buses, $50 for substitute. Additional chaperones, Dawn Cunningham, Wendy Korinchak, Nancy Gobert, and Rachel Lees. C, Jeremiah Dobo, Julie Knoll to take 32 students to jazz band / indoor majorette championships in Wildwood, New Jersey on 4/27/22 to 5/1/22 for competitive performance with costs to the district of approximately $1,000. $200 for substitute, 15% of transportation costs estimated at around $800, and additional chaperones, Daryl Knoll, and 8 to 12 approved district chaperones. Number 2, consideration to approve an emergency instructional time template, section 520.1 for the 2021-22 school year. Number 3, consideration to approve the 2022-23 school calendar. Number 4, consideration to approve a 1-year memorandum of agreement with Children's Behavioral Health LLC for a partial hospitalization program at a daily rate of $80. Number 5, we're gonna table. We were waiting on some more information from Mrs. Batcher, I believe, for Newsella subscription, so we're gonna table that again this evening. Number 6, consideration to approve the purchase of social studies textbooks and instructional materials from Huffman Mifflin Harcourt at a cost of $73,505.82 with ESSERS 2 grant funding. Number 7, consideration to approve the addition / revision of the following board policies pending solicitor review and approval. Number 111, lesson plans. Number 203, communicable diseases and immunizations. Number 203, AR-0 immunization requirements. Number 314, physical examination. Number 331, job-related expenses. Number 334, sick leave. Number 340, responsibility for student welfare. There's a typo on our sheet there. Number 803, school calendar. Number 907, school visitors. And that is all.
Thank you. Questions, comments?
Yes, number 3, I would like to see that the early dismissals for Thanksgiving and prom time be consistent, to reflect the same schedule as when prom hit, at 11 o'clock, instead of
I'm sorry?
times.
I didn't hear, I'm sorry.
I'd like to see it uniform, like if there's early dismissals, like we have an early dismissals, it's at 11 o'clock like it was on the prom time, instead of one being at 11, one and the other one's at 11. I'd like to see it be uniform, they all be 11 o'clock.
The rationale behind it, we tried to feed kids on those days if at all possible before we're sending them out on the holiday. And 2, it's important that we hit the instructional hours, and we've been very close, meeting in the 990 instructional hours. So we don't always have the flexibility to go at 11. I mean, I think we're very, very close, and I'd have to meet with my staff tomorrow to determine exactly where we're at with that instructional hours for next year, okay?
Because that's only like 3 different days, and I can't see, well, we get that far behind on our hours, and I think it should be uniform.
Our biggest issue with hours are our CTC kids, because they spend 40 minutes a day on a bus. So they fall behind on hours because they're not, during that time, the other kids are in the classroom. So that's where we're close, is with the CTC kids because of transportation time.
But for only 2 more holidays, I can't see it, I just think it should be uniform, and I think with all the extra time these teachers and their staff put in, I think we could arm them a little bit and give them this.
I think it was all, always was kind of an issue with feeding them too. Whenever you possibly could, used to be, try to feed the kids before you sent them home. You know, I mean, during COVID, they were bringing food up here, people come up, pick it up to feed them. They're already here. Makes sense to feed them and send them home.
And the reimbursable money, with already we're in a deficit in that program, we try to feed them.
Anything, I'd say feed them on prom day.
Yeah.
That's it, whatever it is, I think it should be uniform for all 3 days. Any early dismissal should be uniform.
We pushed the prom day dismissal back to 1 o'clock, does that screw the girls up?
It does, it does.
That's the biggest issue there, is getting in prep time.
They hardly have enough time with the number of beauty shops in the area and all that good stuff, yeah.
I really think we could work around the lunches.
We're gonna have to count the hours and see where we're at. Count the hours, see where we're at, and then we'll go from there.
I have a question on that curriculum and that, from that HMH. Like, can we get any more information on that? Like, I've talked to Michael Ellingson from there, and he was gonna get me where they're sourcing their information from yet. And some other information, like, is there a possible way we can get a textbook of the curriculum on these different social studies and, something that we can look at before we spend $75,000 on books?
On the counter back here in front of Mr. Westover are samples of all the books. Yeah, so that you can look at those. And in addition to that, we went through a pretty extensive process of reviewing and going through the books with the teachers to kind of figure out what they liked and didn't like about different books. So we went through the proper process that went through what is in the board policy as far as textbook reviews. These are all the papers that the teachers did, reviewing the textbooks and what they had and what they didn't have. They wrote reviews in here, you're welcome to see those. But like I said, the samples of the books are back there if you would like to see those as well.
All right, so we're voting on that tonight, though?
I'd like to.
Well, I mean, it'd be kind of nice to be able to look over some of that, before we vote on that. I would think.
Anybody else wanna table that? Or do you wanna vote tonight?
I would like to vote tonight. I think that we're asking our administrators to review the books, review the information. We didn't change anything with the curriculum. My opinion is that we vote on it and I'm relying on them to do their jobs that way.
And I agree, I think if the teachers and administrators were in on it, I think it's fine with me.
Well, we're tabling that Newsella, and that's the same thing, ain't it?
Because we're waiting on additional information that we had requested prior, and Mrs. Batchman's not here to do that.
Well, I'd kinda like some more information on it, and here's a book, and you have 10 minutes to look into it.
Thank you.
Take a couple minutes between sessions and look at them.
I mean, a lot of that's online, isn't it?
Yes.
The books, the subscription that we got basically has the textbook online. It's the same material that's in those textbooks, only the kids, instead of carrying that big heavy book with them, they can access that book on their computer. Basically, I mean, I know I visited State College, and that's pretty much what they carry a Chromebook around. They don't have any books anymore. So that's kind of the way these things are going. We're purchasing a subscription that allows them to do that, to be able to be online. So basically what they see is that book online.
I'm good with voting on it tonight, but it's up to everybody else. You wanna table it? Mr. Menser, what do you want to do?
I'm good with it.
Mr. Gates?
I'm actually good with it. I understand his concern, but if it comes down that we're looking at every single thing, then as a board, we're not doing our job. Our job's to oversee what our administrators do. If there's questions or complaints in there, then I think we need to review it. If there's not, then I think our job as a board is to support the people that we've hired to do that job. That is not our job to do that.
Thank you. Mr. Walter?
I'll look at them for a few minutes.
I'm good with it. Okay. We'll look at them between sessions. Anything else for discipline curriculum? Finance Committee, Mr. Gates.
Number one, consideration to approve a treasurer's report dated 11/30/21 and 12/31/21, copies attached. Number two, consideration to approve accounts payable billing $1,582,802.65, copies attached. Number three, consideration to approve a yearbook program with Walsworth Yearbooks for the 2023 high school yearbook with a base price of $6,250. Number four, consideration to approve the single audit report for the year ending 6/30/21 is prepared by Coxon CPA and Associates. Number five, consideration to approve a loan agreement and general obligation note with State Public School Building Authority in the amount of $1,700,000 for project number RF 105-2499. That's it.
Thank you. Questions, comments?
The yearbook, we getting rid of the life cut contract, or is that a different?
No, that's a different thing. We have Jostens right now for our yearbook contract,
Okay.
and, Miss Callis and Mrs. Cunningham were exploring, actually, this yearbook's gonna be a lot cheaper. It's a lot more flexible as far as how they put it together, when they have to have everything turned in. And they just really, they felt that it was time for a change from Jostens. So no, unfortunately, it doesn't have anything to do with Life Touch.
Does that change your relationship with the other stuff, like the graduation stuff, the caps and gowns, isn't that all
No.
for Jostens?
No, this is
Okay.
just the yearbook.
Okay. Gotcha.
Anything else?
The loan agreement and general obligation note relate to the resolution that the board passed in December. It was a resolution 120621-01 for funding the science lab. And that resolution was required by the state, public school building authority to start the process for the borrowing. The school district, as the board has decided, opted for borrowing through the state public school building authority because of the the terms that benefit the school district and the reduced soft costs for taking out the borrowing, which if they went to a traditional bond would be quite expensive.
Anything else? All right, administration, Mr. Stacy, you're up.
I don't have anything to report so much, but I do just want to give a quick shout out to the staff, the administration, my team that works with me, the nurse. We've had a pretty difficult road here after Christmas, between faculty absences because of COVID, students, cases. I mean, it's been a full-time job just kind of keeping up with all that stuff, all the CDC changes and trying to implement that. And I'm just really proud of my staff, my administrative team, the custodians, everybody working together to keep this place open. It has been difficult, but we've risen to the challenge. So that's my report.
Thank you. Mr. Kozak.
I do not have anything at this time.
Excellent. Mr. Chilko.
Yes, I wasn't able to be at the last board meeting, due to some family issues. And I understand that there was some discussion about, concerns about the asbestos in our buildings. We have had, and prior to me taking over the supervisor's position, we have had a 3-year inspection every 3 years for as long as I can remember my 35-year career. Anytime that there was any renovation done, it was always documented in our
the HERA report. And just to put everybody's mind at ease, prior to 1976, asbestos was in with building materials. Our building here was built in 1969, and our building at the elementary was opened in 1977. So we inherited this. The asbestos-containing building materials were used on the construction of these schools. And over the years, we've done renovation projects, and through that, we've been doing abatement, getting rid of the asbestos. And at no time was anything ever done the not correct way. And it's all documented in this plan right here. Now, this is a living document. This is 2015's edition here. The 2018 edition is with our company that just inspected our building on the 30th of December. So he is adding to the 2018 edition what he found and what's going to be done with the science labs and everything. So through all that, we was contacted by an inspector from DEP because there was some concerns from the community and there were some complaints filed. On December 20th, the air quality inspector from DEP, Rick Gurney, stated that he had received many calls from area residents filing complaints about asbestos at the junior-senior high school, and we were not handling it properly. So I returned his call that day. Our conversation lasted for about 45 minutes. Mr. Gurney and I discussed the complaints and the past history of the school inspections, abatement, management plan, and any future asbestos removal. At the end of our conversation, Mr. Gurney commented on how good of a job we are doing here at Glendale and that he considers this case closed. Now, I understand that anytime DEP gets a complaint, they have to investigate it. I totally get that. But he said he would contact the complainants and let them know what he found out. Some of the complaints were, or questions were, I guess, when was the last time the school had an inspection? Our last inspection was on 12/30. And this was done by Microbac Company out of Erie, PA. The time before that was 2018. This was done by Voles Environmental out of Pittsburgh. I had to find a new inspection company because Voles is no longer in business. So through our architects, they give me Microbac's name. And super nice people. Does the school have a building management plan? Yes, we do. It is included in the inspection report, which is the HERA 3-year re-inspection asbestos assessment, inventory study, and management plan update. It is required for schools to have a HERA report available to the public if they want to review it. Like I said, the most recent one is in Microbac's hands right at the moment, and they're adding to it to make up the new report. But that report and a management plan and this document is in my office, and at any time, anybody wants to read that, they're more than welcome to. There's a lot of reading in there where they put you to sleep. But we have to have it. Since 2008, we have done many building projects, including asbestos abatements. For example, some of the projects, re-roofing the elementary and high school. There were sealants found to contain asbestos. On the high school canopy by the district office. An abatement company was called. The material in question was properly disposed of. That's how detailed we get on building projects. And my former inspector always said, if you don't know, consider it does contain. So we'll have it tested if we don't know. But we've had everything tested from insulations to ceiling tiles, to floor tiles, to glues, everything you can imagine, because we don't know, and until we know, we consider that it has asbestos. I wouldn't be going out on a limb to say, I bet you everybody in this room has some form of asbestos in their house. At any time that asbestos is removed in the schools, after removal, there are air quality tests done. For an example, when we was carpeting the hallways here a few years back, down where the district office is, that used to be one big lobby area in there prior to '98. And when they built the conference room in there now, what remained in the hallway there between the two sets of double doors was asbestos tile underneath there. When we was ripping the old carpet up, we came to that tile, and we already had an abatement company lined up. They came, removed the tile. They go through a whole process of removal, and then the tile that we have it contains 3% asbestos, and the glue that holds the tile down is 15%. So they have to bead blast the concrete to get all that mastic off the floor and wipe everything down, every little nook and cranny after they're done. And then they do air quality testing for a certain amount of time before anybody is allowed to enter that area. So that will be done also during our renovation process. Like I said, when he was here inspecting on the 30th, he also was looking at the science labs, and he was making up an abatement plan for the contractors to go by whenever we start that project. The main areas that's of concern that's in those rooms is some of the original countertops that contain asbestos, the floor tile, of course the glue that holds it on, possibly some sealants that holds the blackboard on. We discussed that, if we had ever had that tested when he was here, the sealants, and once we get to that, we're going to test that to see if it contains asbestos. And there's one cabinet that has I guess it was used at one time in there for maybe an acid cabinet or something. It has asbestos panels in it. But asbestos is safe as long as it's encapsulated. Where you get into trouble with it is when it's on insulation and or even wiring. If you get a high temp wire, they used to put asbestos coating on it, and it becomes friable, which means it floats in the air, and then you inhale it, and that's when it's bad. But as long as it's encapsulated, like in the floor tile with finish on it, with another layer of tile over top of it, it's safe to be around. It's safe to have here. But I look forward to these projects because every time we do this, we're getting rid of a little bit more, you know. And it'd be nice to say someday we won't have any asbestos in either of these buildings. That would be great, but we're a ways off from that yet. So I just wanted to make everybody aware that we are doing everything right here as far as our inspections and the way it's dealt with. We don't tear out any asbestos. You have to be licensed to do that. That's why you have an abatement company come in and do that. That's why during a project, you've gotta allow for that money, because it is expensive. Our elementary gym floor is all asbestos tile over there. Our ceiling in our auditorium is asbestos. It's here, but it's safe, it's inspected. So please rest at ease, we're doing the right thing. That's all, sir.
Thank you.
Mr. McGould.
Excuse me, I just
I
wanna,
haven't shook up.
no pleasure there.
Read that, it's nothing.
Just publicly thank the staff, administration, and some board members for, on my medical leave, for the good lucks and get wells. That's all well, and I'm back. And I do want a special thanks publicly to the administration while I was out for my medical leave, that they communicated with me and made some decisions based on an admin team, and so they picked up my slack, as you say. But special thanks to the admin team, the special ed secretary Diane O'Shell, and our department heads for special ed in elementary and high school. A lot of communication, so just want to publicly say thank you.
Thank you. Glad to have you back.
Thank you.
Mr. Westover.
I don't have anything real exciting, but I am working on 2022-23 budget. We started around Thanksgiving or so, and hopefully we'll have our budget meeting as normal, maybe much early April. So far, so good. I'm not really into it, but I did see something the other day online on, I think it's Hasbro's website, that Governor Wolf said it should be an easy budget year for the state, that there's lots of federal money and state money, and should be an easy budget this year, and the school should be in good shape, so fingers crossed, let's hope he's right. So we'll see how that goes, but the budget process is for 4 or 5 months for the schools, and it's just frustrating sometimes because we have to pass our budget by June 30, no matter if the state has their budget passed or not. So hopefully it is good news, maybe we'll have the budget passed, and we'll actually know how much money we're getting before we know how much money we have to spend. But yes, I am working on the budget, so if anyone has any ideas or comments or suggestions, let me know. That's it.
All right, thank you. Mr. Frank.
I have nothing tonight.
I don't see the food service, so you're the last one on the
The
list.
last one, and at this time, I'd like to, in honor of school board's commitment to our students, schools and community, January is designated as School Director Recognition Month. Pennsylvania Public Schools educate nearly 2 million students, and the 9 members of each local school board are a vital part of the district's administrative team, making informed decisions that lead public schools and provide opportunities for every student to succeed. School directors, who are unpaid, devote hours each month to the challenging and complex responsibilities of the board business, including voting on budgets, adopting policy, and conducting comprehensive planning. We all here at our district recognize your time and commitment, and we thank you for all you do during this special recognition month. Also in front of you tonight is a shirt as part of our thank you. It was part of a project to recognize staff around the holidays through the funding of the Education Foundation. A special shirt that says that we are stronger together. So we're going to get that, and we thank you for helping us and guiding us, and each one of you will receive a copy I'll pass out during the break, okay? So thank you all for all you do to help us learn. That's all I have.
Very good. Well, I think that's all of it for the regular meeting, or for the work session. Want to take a 10-minute break, look at the books, and go to the bathroom, whatever you want to